This episode is proudly supported by Pepe Sayer Australian Cultured Butter, batch churned from single origin cream.
We've got a culturing process, a fermenting process, an aging process. So the butter will taste very different than, I guess, the average supermarket butter. I like to say we make butter makers butter. Like, this is the sort of butter makers would like to eat, simply because of the slow process in which we ferment and age and get the flavour into it. You know, the natural fermentation that gets all the flavours into the cream, and then once you churn it, you end up with this really rich, flavoursome butter that evolves and changes because it's a live culture that's in the butter as well.
For more information, go to pepesayer.com.au.
I hope that what's happening in November and December for us, where everyone's back and busy and enthusiastic and excited and jovial, I hope that continues. And I hope, we don't get worn down by all the new media talk of more problems.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Over the summer, we're going to catch up with previous guests and share yarns from their lives in food. As she plans to open her new restaurant, Dame, Jackie Middleton joins us to share some stories from her favourite time of year. Jackie, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Well, I'm well today. I was frantic last week, but I'm well today.
What's this period of time like for the hospitality sector? Summer, everyone likes to get out and enjoy themselves in the festive season, but what's it like as an operator?
Simon and I have never really loved Christmas until we had kids. You always feel like you work like a crazy person until Christmas Day, and then you eat yourself crazy and drink yourself crazy, and then you kind of have that zombie time between Christmas and New Year's, and where you kind of recover. So I don't feel like I've ever been one of those I love Christmas type people, but then kids kind of change that. You have to kind of make an effort, right? But as an operator, it's just exhausting.
Well, summer is a great time of year. Do you have any stories of experiences with food during summer?
I do. I have very fond memories of a kid going prawning and things like that with my pa when I was really small. I grew up going away for summer holidays to Lake Illawarra, just south of Sydney, and going out and going prawning back when there were prawns still in that lake, apparently. But I remember even just like wading around, or my pa and my dad wading around and then shooing prawns to me for me to scoop with kerosene lamps in the middle of the night. Well, an 8-year-old or a 7-year-old thought was the middle of the night was probably like 10 o'clock,
What sort of feasts did you have with your family? That's a pretty extraordinary experience for a young kid.
Yeah, I remember it mostly being breakfast feasts after doing that. So we'd go out prawning all night. Probably wasn't all night, but going out prawning all night, and then prawns would come home and be left in a big bucket, and they'd purge, and then in the morning they'd get cooked in the copper, which was actually a traditional old, thing that you wash your clothes in, and Nan would cook those up, and then there would be warm prawns laid out that everyone would sift through for breakfast snacks. But I was a bit fussy then, and I actually preferred all the tiniest ones, which is kind of translated as an adult too. I actually prefer the tiny school prawns you can find, the really sweet tiny ones. So when they're in season, which is about now too, and then coming into the beginning of the year, I'm always like the one at the fishmonger going, have you got the Lakes Entrance prawns yet? And they probably think I'm a cheapskate wanting the cheapest prawns on the market, but they're actually the ones that give me the flavour memories of my childhood.
You've got kids now, as you mentioned, and you are forced to make an effort for that Christmas and festive period. What sort of feasts or summer feasts do you have with the family?
Usually... Look, I like to make an effort for Christmas, and I love to do a ham and glaze it and things like that, something like large format, because as an operator you understand the advantages of doing things on large format and things that you wouldn't maybe have the the fuss to do at home typically. So I love to do a big fancy ham, and I've brought the last few years hams from Gary's at Prime Market because he does the best. And, you know, it's just scoring the skin and doing different glazes, whether it was something boozy, like I think I did a Negroni glazed ham a few years ago. You know, and then there'll be a bit of seafood, but not too much because it is really hard to get at this time of year. And I think that's why often many punters are disappointed. You know, oysters, like it's not a good time of year to be eating oysters in Australia, unless you're incredibly selective and incredibly lucky to get the right ones. You know, so I might do a gravlax or something like that, and a ham, and then probably, you know, summer pudding. So I don't know. I've never had a cold Christmas. So Christmas would be very weird for me if I was suddenly, you know, fortunate enough to do Christmas New York or something like that. So, it's usually summer fruits and, you know, berries.
You've had a pretty fascinating couple of years re-looking at Earl and changing things to make sure you get through this period. But you've just recently opened a site at the airport, but you're also opening a new offering called Dame. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, we don't do things by halves. We're making hay while the sun shines, as they say. So, yeah, Simon's been working like a madman. We've been working on the projects for a long time, but working like a madman at the airport that opened on Saturday, and I just last Friday had handover for beautiful Dame. So Dame is essentially an all-day dining venue, essentially operating 7 to 7 Monday to Friday. So kind of day focused, you know, coffee, lunch, afternoon snacks, and we'll be doing through summer some, you know, knockoff drinks. So we'll be doing Thursday and Friday nights, you know, aperitif hours under the atrium. So very much focused on absolute benchmark quality coffee, great food, but not too fancy, just kind of something accessible, somewhere where you want to go. But I'm actually sitting here now in the window and watching people gawk past, but she's absolutely gorgeous, and I can't wait to get her open early next year.
Well, what's it been like creating Dame? Because you built the whole business on sort of everyday eats with sandwiches and coffee with Earl, but this is a step up. Does it feel different?
Yeah, it does feel different. It feels really exciting to do something creatively. It feels very exciting for me to do something different. So thinking about things that maybe like there's a dish called the muffaletta. It's a club style muffaletta. And I've done it on a small roll, and I actually was playing around with a muffaletta for something for Earl a few years ago and realised it was just too fussy. The price points weren't going to work, and all these things meant it wasn't going to work. And anyway, I was using these big bread rolls to do a large format one, a little bit like what A1 used to do in Sydney. And I was playing around with recipes like this, and had some leftover meats and cheeses, and actually made one into a small milk bun, and went, I'm onto something here. And then I actually have some Instagram photos from a few years ago that had this, and then I was like, Dame came along and here she is, and I have a chance to do it. So, you know, having recipes that I've loved for a long time that are somewhat nostalgic to me, which has kind of led the way with Dame to have I guess a menu that's a little bit nostalgic, and I'm playing to the 80s and 90s with the launch of the building in that she sits was launched in 1981. So playing along with that idea of nostalgic food and food that I really love. So there'll be, you know, I guess elated versions of Caesar salads. There'll be creme caramels and things like that. So, But not too fancy, because I still want people to be able to come often. It's not like a special occasion cafe. We are still feeding the people that are immediately around us at the top end of Collins, but they are, you know, corporate people, so they like nice things.
We spoke to you many, many moons ago, very early on in Deep in the Weeds, when COVID arrived and affected your business dramatically. What's it been like in sort of just the recent period of time for the company and the brand?
It's been great to have the confidence knowing that we survived it, that I'm kind of, if anything, we're feeling a little bit invincible at the moment in that, you know, we got through. There's many people that have been much more affected than what we have. And I think maybe that's because the way we operated our business pre-COVID, that has always been incredibly, legitimate. We've always paid our bills on time, and that kind of led us into COVID really well. It's made me feel very confident that as an operator, we had been doing the right thing, and that if we keep going along this track, there's, we will have continued success. I don't know, it's kind of made me feel a little bit more grown up about my business, really, in the way that we run, and the confidence that we're not just a little sandwich chain, that we could do other things and dream bigger and, get the deal going at the airport because it's a licensed arrangement with Delaware North, and, think bigger about it in a way that is maybe contrary to the way I felt during COVID, where I felt incredibly professionally and personally shrunk, that my world was contracted in, and now I feel like I'm filling into a bigger void. I think COVID has really given us an understanding that we are running a big, coming into what was probably technically called a medium-sized business, and that we're doing this as professional operators. I think, understanding that our business is where it's at and growing with that, and feeling a confidence that that's brought us, that COVID's made us very aware that we're doing okay. And maybe sometimes you don't get a chance to sit back and go, actually, we're doing okay. We're actually good operators. It's okay.
What are you looking forward to for the rest of summer?
I'm looking forward to getting post-Christmas. We're going to have a couple of days off, but I'm actually really excited about getting into next year. I love my work, and I feel excited about getting into January and getting Dame open and trading and feeling our way with it. I really like the process of getting a new concept open and working out how our customers want to use us, how we want to work with them, what's their experiences with a new business, and also at the airport too, and new ways that we do business with a partnership with the way that that's operating out there, and just seeing what the future as a bigger business holds for us. It's exciting. It really is.
What are your hopes for the industry in 2022?
I hope that what's happening in November and December for us, where everyone's back and busy and enthusiastic and excited and jovial, I hope that continues. And I hope, we don't get worn down by all the new media talk of more problems. And I hope, as a heavily vaccinated community and a very educated community about, all the things that we need to do for COVID, that we feel confident to keep going out and having fun again.
Well, Jackie, we love having you on Deep in the Weeds, and no doubt we'll catch up with you again sometime next year. Good luck with the opening of Dame, and have a wonderful summer, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you. I want to say thank you so much for all the love that Earl and Simon and I have had through you and Rob and Deep in the Weeds. It's been really interesting having the reflection that I put into thinking about before we have these chats, and then listening back to them. It's really inspiring. Thank you, Huck.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.